This was an interesting exchange. Mike Pence did a town hall on News Nation,
I watched some of it.
and it included this question from an LGBTQIA two spirit
She was hysterical.
person who also claims to be some sort of professor of social work. Take her at her word. I don't know. Like, sounds like she might need a counselor. This is her question to Mike Pence after he explained his view on transing kids without mom and or dad, knowing about it in the schools.
Allister. She's a professor of social work in Iowa who's joining us, who I understand may have a little bit of a different view on this, but we wanted to let her ask you a question.
This is so staged, I think.
Good evening, Vice President. I am an LGBTQ member, and I have trans individuals in my family. Recent anti-LGBTQ bills have been signed into law all around this United States, including here in Iowa. So far in 2023, 15 transgender individuals and gender nonconforming people have been murdered. The vast majority of those people have been Black and Latinx transgender women.
In Iowa?
It is very hard for me to ask these questions after just hearing what I heard. What is your policy plan to protect the transgender community, specifically Black and brown trans women, from historically high levels of violence?
Well, Melissa, let me say I'm deeply grieved to hear about those tragic circumstances, and I hear your heart, and I'm moved by your emotion. I truly am. Look, if I'm president of the United States, I'm gonna see to the protection of every American and the rights of every American.
Uh-huh. It kind of carries on from there, does Pence. Uh,
How would you have answered that question?
well, I'll tell you in a second, but
Okay.
but dealing with sentimentality like that from that professor, you don't deal with it with sentimentality. You deal with it with rationality. It's the only way. Because I hope you hear my heart because I hear your heart. Hallmark moment stuff doesn't work.
Do you understand the vice president's idea that there is a difference between how adults conduct their lives and make decisions and that of how kids do?
Absolutely. I'm a social worker. I've been in this profession for 25 years. I've worked with kids most of my profession. I started an LGBTQ youth program in my own hometown. I started one in Terre Haute, Indiana, where I was threatened with KKK, and X is on my doorstep, and that was in 2020. I have worked with kids as young as 5 years old that have gender nonconforming and identities that are transgender, and I've raised one. And so to hear somebody tell me that it's not okay for young children to make decisions about their gender identity and to ask their school officials for support, protection, and help is appalling.
Well, here's something else you're going to find appalling, Professor. You're appalling. Your position is untenable. It is barbaric. And as a presidential candidate, I won't support it. And if we have that disagreement, well, that's just so sad, too bad, because prepubescent children deciding to deciding on medical decisions, making decisions that are medical in nature and potentially permanent, and school officials you characterize as helping, facilitating. when the zeitgeist of the moment is to cut mom and dad out of that conversation, go ask the attorney general in California if you don't believe me. Sorry, I'm not on board. No one supports violence against anyone.
No.
So don't give me that sophistry that somehow you care more about people who have been victimized by criminals than I do. No, you don't. And neither does the party to which you affiliate. So I'm sorry, but I'm not having it. I'm not having it. That's the response that you, in my view, that you deliver to a sentimentalist like that professor. Let me give you an example of somebody who does it a little bit better. Ron DeSantis in May when he got stuck up by a reporter with the same line of attack.
Cultural issues that you've identified here. Do you think American voters want a leader?
How many of these people
like
were paid to come? I mean, like, honestly, it's like, seriously, some of this stuff is just totally manufactured. And when you talk to people, and I know like people in your industry will dress it up with a euphemism and they'll say it's health care to cut off the private parts of a 14 or 15-year-old. That is not health care. That is mutilation. And so when we're standing up against that, we're protecting these kids. We had Chloe Cole. We've had other people who.
Daniel Henninger writing in the Wall Street Journal, the argument against elevating the culture wars comes down to two issues, abortion and gender ideology. The party's voter problems with meaning the Republicans, with settling on broadly acceptable abortion limitations are evidence. Gender ideology has considered too hot button, though the rise of so-called parents' rights movements over gender preference notification in Virginia, New Jersey, North Carolina, California looks like a problem for the Democrats. It is a problem. It is a problem if you stand up to them, if you don't coddle them the way that Mike Pence attempted to do. Try to middle the issue. I'm here and I'm not changing my position, but I hear your heart and you hear mine. No, I don't.
What you said was perfect.
It's not about your heart. It's about your head, and it's about the best interests of those children. And the best interests of those children is not being mutilated. And you just heard DeSantis about to go on about some of those detransitioners that are now speaking out courageously, like the Chloe Coles and the Prisha Mosleys, and a lot of parents, too. For more on this, so we're pleased to be joined by a parent who's involved in this. She is Tiffany Justice. She's the co-founder of Moms for Liberty and the host of the Joyful Warriors podcast. Tiffany, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been an interesting discussion so far.
Well, please weigh in. You're perfectly suited to do so.
I think one of the things that is often not discussed is that many of the people that are suffering from what they consider to be gender dysphoria or transgenderism have a lot of comorbidities, a lot of other mental distress that oftentimes isn't actually dealt with, and gender transition is offered as this magic pill that will somehow solve all of these other issues. But as we can see, that is obviously not the case. And so if I had been guiding Mike Pence, I think I would have taken a harder line, as you did, but I also would have added in the fact that, we're really not helping people if we're masking all of these other issues by pretending like allowing them to go down some path where what they want will never be realized, meaning a man can never become a woman and a woman can never become a man. That's a truth that they deserve to hear.
Well, that's exactly the point that Chloe Cole made. I mean, that's she's given many interviews now, but in the interview she did with Jordan Peterson, I mean, it's heartbreaking when she says, like, exactly what you were just describing. Here's where she was. Here's what she says, she thought, and now, and she knows better, but she starts to break down, and she said, how was I supposed to know? And the answer to how she was supposed to know is that somebody was supposed to tell her.
Irreversible harm. I mean, I've sat with Chloe and talked to her mastectomy wounds. They call it top surgery. That's just a easy, prettier word for a double mastectomy. I've had friends who have gone through that process. It's a very difficult, painful surgery. Her wounds are still weeping. I know that's hard to hear early in the morning, but that's a reality. A lot of these detransitioners, their bone density is like they're 75 years old. These hormones, the puberty blockers, the cross-sex hormones, and then certainly the medical transition make people lifelong medical patients. And the truth is, two things. Children are never born in the wrong body. The idea that we're telling them that is abusive, And the second thing being, children cannot consent to puberty blockers. No child is in a position to be able to make those types of decisions for themselves. And, parents aren't allowed to abuse their children. My daughter was anorexic, and I leaned into the anorexia and said, okay, sweetheart, sure, you seem like you also are overweight to me. Let's get you lap band surgery. I'll starve you. I'll put you on different medications or pills to try to bring your weight down. I would be arrested. So in this situation, what you're seeing is the standard of care is changing across the United States. It's changed in Florida. As you mentioned, Ron DeSantis has been a real leader here. And our moms at Moms for Liberty have been very supportive of him because sane, healthy parents recognize that when your child comes to you in mental distress, that you don't just affirm whatever it is they're saying to you. Sometimes the kindest word that your child can hear from you is no.
Yes, no is a good thing. So I don't know if you know this, but what role did Chloe Cole's parents play in all of this?
Chloe was the youngest of a number of kids, and I think honestly, like many American parents, they weren't told the truth. Chloe felt that she was dealing with gender confusion. They went to the doctor with her, and many doctors across the United States, urged by associations, American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Medical Association, they are all on this bandwagon of gender-affirming care, meaning that you are supposed to affirm whatever gender your child feels like they are. Now, a couple things. We don't talk about gender. We talk about biological sex. And what they want you to do is lie to your child and tell your child that they can become another sex. Totally untrue. Chloe's parents, I'm sure, have regrets, as many American parents that are being led down this path do now or will in the future. Chloe has been incredibly gracious and has said, my parents were told that this was something that was good for me, that would help me, that would keep me from killing myself, right? That's a lot that's told to people. Doctors will say, do you want a dead daughter or a live son? What an awful, cruel thing to say to a parent.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. You and your co-founder of Moms for Liberty, Tina Descovich, were the subjects of the weekend interview in the Wall Street Journal, which was really interesting. The top line of that interview is, "We do not co-parent with the government," which I like the line a lot, but I want you to develop that a little bit more for us, because I want to make sure the people don't fall into the trap of the caricature of Moms for Liberty and other parents groups. When you say we don't co-parent with the government, it means, we're here to tell teachers and administrators and school board members what to do, and we're going to make this decision, that decision, we're running, because that's how the left characterizes these groups, and that's not reflective of the reality.
No, it's not. I mean, American parents are busy, right? They're working and they send their kids to school, and they shouldn't be worried constantly that the teaching in the classroom is antithetical to the teaching in their home, or that secrets are being kept from them. That children, and it's happening, being put into social transition programs in school. 6 pages of forms that an 11-year-old fills out with a counselor behind closed doors, different name, different pronouns, different bathroom. My goodness, leading a double life. And so, no, there's been a real attempt by the media, as you've said, to try to kind of paint this caricature of parents, concerned parents, helicopter parents. What we're saying is, don't cut us out. We want, and parents should and need to be a major part of every decision that a child is making in school and in life. And, we don't make laws for the minority of people that are going to break that law. And so parental rights are incredibly important. These are fundamental rights. The government doesn't give you the right to raise your child. They certainly can't take it away without due cause. And so, parents are just saying, you don't get to make these types of decisions for our children. There's a boundary between school and home, and we'd like you to respect that, government.
And for people out there listening, and they're always urging people to get involved, pay attention to what's happening in your school board, run for school board, at least vote in the elections. Take a walk around your kid's school, see what's happening. Say, well, I can't do that, and we're outnumbered, and so on and so forth. I mean, this is the Moms for Liberty. The development of this organization has been like a prairie fire. I just want you to describe sort of the genesis of it and how it's taken off into such a thing.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So Tina and I served as school board members. We're both moms. We saw serving on school board during COVID that school districts and a lot of elected officials were abdicating their authority. And so you had a lot of bureaucrats making decisions, and parents were coming forward and trying to express the fact that they saw their children being harmed, and they couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't stop it. And so we started Moms for Liberty so that parents would have a seat at the table, a voice, and it's grown As you said, it has been like wildfire. We started with 2 chapters in January of 2021. We now have 300 chapters in 47 states with over 130,000 members, active members on the ground, and we endorse only in school board races. And so we try to make sure that people understand the politics the closest to you are very, very important. School board members have a lot of power to make decisions regarding your child's life, the things they're learning, the way the school is operating. And, you know, I mean, you're in Chicago Teachers Union, president of it, right? Sending her child to private school, doesn't even trust public school, right? So, you know, what you're seeing is American parents becoming very concerned about the educational failure we're seeing in our schools. Kids are not learning how to read. They can't do math. They're not writing. They're stuck on the screen all day. And American parents are saying, wait a second. In 2023, we're going to spend $850 billion on public education. That's local, state, federal funding combined. The outcomes are abysmal, and something has to change.
Well, I understand from the Southern Poverty Law Center that your real agenda is to overthrow the government, institute some sort of apartheid system in this country. So, you know, come on, full disclosure. Tell us what your real plans are.
Our real plans are to put power back into the hands of parents when it comes to their children. No more secret meetings. Parents should be able to see the curriculum. There should be transparency in what their children are being taught in school. And that needs to happen before that information is taught. We want parents to have an active role in directing their children's upbringing. You can't direct something if you're constantly reacting to it. The SPLC designation was meant to try to hurt us. They wanted in the first paragraph of every article that's written about us. And, you know, currently that's happening. We're working to hold the SPLC accountable for that.
Working to hold them accountable, like litigation, potentially?
Yes, sir. We are in the process of a legal analysis right now, and we hope to be able to take action in the future.
Good. Because that is just as all things are with the left, it projects what it is, which is a hate group masquerading as some sort of clearinghouse for extremist elements in this country. It long has been. It's been set by fraud over the years, and Southern Poverty Law Center sort of needs the kind of profile in the public mind that someone like George Soros has gotten since he funded all of these prosecutors, I think. So maybe Moms for Liberty could do that public service as well. Tiffany,
we're hoping that. We're hoping that.
Tiffany Justice is the co-founder of Moms for Liberty. Do check out their weekend interview in the Wall Street Journal. We do not co-parent with the government. And also check out Tiffany's podcast, which is The Joyful Warriors. Tiffany, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
You're invited to join Chicago's